If I have seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants. We usually treat Isaac Newton's famous words as a humble tribute to his predecessors, but historians suspect this line was actually a calculated insult aimed directly at a bitter rival. That rival was Robert Hooke. In the 17th century, Hooke was a respected polymath and the Royal Society's curator of experiments. Every week, he was responsible for demonstrating new scientific principles to the brightest minds in England. His hands built the air pump used by Robert Boyle to study pressure, and looking through a microscope at a piece of cork, Hooke became the first person to describe the tiny, porous structures of plant tissue as cells. He designed London architecture, pioneered meteorology, and invented the balance spring that made accurate pocket watches possible. Yet, despite a lifetime of massive contributions to early modern science, there is not a single verified portrait of Robert Hooke in existence today. He is the invisible giant of the scientific revolution. To understand how a man this important was effectively erased from history, we have to look at the feud that tore the Royal Society apart. In 1686, the first book of Isaac Newton's masterwork, the Principia, was presented to the Royal Society. Hooke's reaction was explosive. He immediately accused Newton of plagiarism, claiming that he was the one who originally gave Newton the rule for the decrease of gravity. Hooke insisted the core concept belonged to him. But we have to look at the actual physics to see whether the man who hypothesized the laws of planetary motion was truly robbed of his rightful credit. Scientists originally viewed the solar system's planetary orbits as driven by an outward, fleeing force known as centrifugal force. Hooke realized this was backward. He proposed that planets are actually driven by an attraction pulling inward, a centripetal force. In a letter written to Newton on January 6, 1680, Hooke communicated his supposition. He hypothesized that this inward attraction decreases in a duplicate proportion to the distance from the center, what we now call an inverse square relationship. By rejecting an outward fleeing force and proposing an inward pull that weakens with distance, Hooke provided the conceptual framework to understand universal gravitation. But in physics, a brilliant concept is only half the battle. Without mathematical evidence to back it up, an idea remains just a guess. To see how Hooke tried to prove his guess, look at this diagram showing his orbital models. Hooke relied on visual, geometric drawings. He tried to build the orbit out of straight lines and polygons rather than continuous, rigorous equations. Because of this limitation, his graphical method hit a wall. He could never conclusively prove exactly how that inverse square force creates the smooth elliptical orbits we observe in space. This is where Newton stepped in. He took Hooke's centripetal framework and applied his mastery of advanced calculus to it. Newton achieved what Hooke couldn't, mathematically proving that an inverse square law guarantees elliptical orbits, while simultaneously confirming Kepler's equal area law. When Robert Hooke demanded recognition, Newton refused. He held a strict belief that doing the grueling mathematical work is what separates a hypothesis from a scientific law. Hooke had successfully drawn the conceptual map of the universe, but only Newton had the mathematical engine required to actually drive the discovery home. The scientific community sided with the math. Newton achieved absolute victory, and shortly after Hooke died in 1703, Newton was elected president of the Royal Society. From that seat of power, he actively consolidated his authority. Monuments like this imposing marble memorial show how effectively Newton cemented his own legacy as an unrivaled, solitary genius. A popular rumor even claims that Newton intentionally destroyed the only existing portrait of Hooke when the Society relocated its offices. However, modern historians doubt this, noting there's very little evidence a portrait ever existed in the first place. Whether he destroyed a painting or not, Newton's aggressive legacy building worked perfectly. He successfully eclipsed his rival's reputation, reducing Hooke to a historical footnote for centuries. But history is rarely driven by a lone genius experiencing an isolated moment of inspiration. Instead, it relies on collective learning, a continuous, shared chain of human knowledge. The reality of their conflict is entirely symbiotic. Newton's calculus was directionless without Hooke's centripetal framework, and Hooke's framework was unprovable without Newton's math. Today, Hooke's physical legacy remains visible all around us, from the spiral springs ticking inside mechanical watches to the cellular structure of biology. Scientific breakthroughs are never achieved in a vacuum. Even a mind as brilliant as Newton's could not reach the stars without a giant's shoulders to stand on.